hunter jet fighting with a submarine in Atlantic Ocean with beautiful different scenes. The Atlantic was restless that morning, its long gray waves rolling beneath a sky the color of brushed steel. Far above the waterline, a lone fighter jet roared through the cold air, its engines slicing the silence with thunder. The aircraft belonged to a NATO carrier group operating somewhere between the eastern coast of the United States and the vast waters stretching toward Europe. Its mission had started as a routine patrol, scan the shipping lanes, monitor radar activity, and return to base before nightfall. But routine vanished the moment a faint signal flickered across the pilot's screen, a submerged contact moving fast beneath the Atlantic's shifting skin. Miles below, hidden under layers of icy saltwater, a submarine cut through the depths like a silent predator. Its steel hull absorbed the crushing pressure of the ocean as sonar pings echoed through the dark. Inside, red emergency lights bathed the control room while officers whispered coordinates and adjusted course. The submarine's captain had one goal: slip through the patrol unnoticed and reach open waters without being tracked. But the Atlantic was no friend to secrets, and the jet above had already begun narrowing its search pattern. The ocean became a battlefield divided by air and water, sky and abyss. The jet dipped lower, engines throttling back as the pilot released a sonar buoy into the sea. The small device splashed into the waves and began transmitting sound pulses downward. Seconds stretched into tight knots of tension. Then the headphones inside the cockpit crackled. Contact confirmed. The submarine responded instantly, changing depth and launching countermeasures to confuse the incoming signals. In the blackness below, decoy noises rippled outward, imitating mechanical echoes and false propeller beats. It was a chess match played at impossible speed, each move hidden from sight yet deadly in consequence. Clouds thickened overhead as wind tore white streaks across the surface. The jet banked sharply, lining up for another pass. Its sensors locked on to a shifting shadow far beneath the waves. The pilot knew one precise strike could cripple the vessel. Below, the submarine's crew felt the vibration of distant engines vibrating through steel and bone. The captain ordered a hard dive, plunging deeper into colder water where detection became harder. Depth gauges spun, alarms blinked, tension pressed heavier than the ocean itself. In a final gamble, the jet released a guided torpedo designed to track sound through water. It pierced the surface with a violent splash and sped downward, homing in on the submarine's fading acoustic trail. Inside the vessel, officers launched one last decoy and cut engines to near silence. For a breathless moment, everything seemed suspended between survival and destruction. Then, far behind the submarine, a deep underwater explosion shook the Atlantic. The decoy had worked. The submarine slipped into the darkness, damaged but alive, retreating into the vastness of the ocean. Above, the jet circled once more before climbing back toward the clouds, mission incomplete but battle survived. The Atlantic swallowed the evidence, its waves smoothing over the scars of conflict as if nothing had happened at all. Yet both crews knew they would remember that day, the day sky and sea collided in silent war. The jet did not return to the carrier immediately. Instead, the pilot climbed to a higher altitude and circled beyond the storm front, waiting for fresh data from the fleet. Hundreds of miles below, the Atlantic seemed calm again, but new sonar reports were flooding in from a nearby destroyer. The submarine had not simply fled, it had changed direction. Intelligence suggested it might be heading toward a strategic shipping corridor that connected North America to ports near Lisbon. If it reached those lanes undetected, the consequences could ripple across half the world. The pilot tightened his grip on the controls. The hunt was not over, it had only grown more dangerous. Beneath the surface, the submarine's hull groaned as it leveled out at a safer depth. Engineers inspected compartments for damage from the shockwave that had rattled the vessel earlier. Though the decoy had spared them from destruction, internal systems had taken a beating. A coolant pipe leaked slowly, and one sonar array flickered with interference. The captain weighed his options. Turning back would mean admitting failure. Pressing forward meant risking another encounter with the relentless jet above. After a long silence, he ordered a cautious advance. The Atlantic was vast, and even the most advanced aircraft could not watch every wave at once. Night began to fall, and with it came a blanket of thick cloud cover. The jet refueled midair from a tanker, its metallic silhouette briefly illuminated by the dim glow of navigation lights. Darkness was both ally and enemy, harder for the submarine to be spotted visually, yet easier for advanced infrared systems to pick up subtle differences in temperature where steel met seawater. The pilot deployed a new grid of sonar buoys, spacing them like invisible mines across the ocean's surface. Each splash marked another narrowing ring around the hidden target. Inside the submarine, tension grew sharper than the steel surrounding them. The captain realized the aircraft was not acting alone. Surface ships were repositioning, forming a wide net. The ocean that had once seemed endless now felt claustrophobic. He made a bold decision: rise unexpectedly to periscope depth and deploy a surface drone to create a false radar signature. The maneuver was risky, exposing them briefly to detection. But desperation breeds daring. The submarine rose, barely breaking the upper layers of water, and released the small device before diving again into deeper darkness. High above, the jet's radar screen flickered. A sudden contact appeared miles west of the last known coordinates. The pilot accelerated, engines roaring as the aircraft sliced through wind and rain. Lightning cracked across the horizon, briefly lighting the sea like a flashbulb. But as he approached the signal, doubt crept in. The pattern seemed wrong, too steady, too predictable. Trusting instinct over instruments, he banked sharply and returned to the original grid. Moments later, one of the distant buoys transmitted a faint but undeniable acoustic trace. The submarine had moved east, trying to slip beneath the distraction. The pilot aligned once more, heart pounding in rhythm with the engine's thunder. This time, coordination with the destroyers was precise. A surface vessel closed in from one side, forcing the submarine to alter course directly into the jet's calculated path. What followed was swift and decisive. A second torpedo entered the sea, guided by a network of data shared between air and surface forces. Down below, alarms blared as the submarine attempted another evasive dive. But the damage from earlier limited its speed. The ocean trembled with a muted explosion, closer and heavier than before. Systems failed. Power flickered. Water surged into compartments. When the jet climbed once more into the storm-dark sky, the Atlantic no longer hid a fleeing shadow. Rescue signals began to pulse upward from the crippled vessel. The battle had ended not in silent disappearance, but in reluctant surrender. As dawn slowly touched the horizon, the sea carried both victory and loss within its endless depths, reminding all who crossed it that the Atlantic never truly forgets. Dawn spread slowly across the Atlantic, pale gold light spilling over restless waves as rescue helicopters lifted off from the naval carrier. The storm had passed, leaving behind long swells that rolled like the breathing of some ancient creature. The crippled submarine floated just beneath the surface, its hull scarred and leaking but no longer fighting. Inflatable rafts dotted the water as crew members were carefully brought aboard rescue craft. War had given way to obligation, enemies became sailors in need of saving. Above them, the fighter jet maintained a quiet orbit, no longer a hunter but a guardian in the sky, ensuring the operation remained secure and undisturbed. On the carrier's command deck, officers monitored every movement. Reports flowed in from Allied ships positioned across the Atlantic corridor stretching toward Lisbon. Intelligence analysts were already dissecting the submarine's mission, trying to determine whether it had been a reconnaissance probe, a show of force, or something far more dangerous. The pilot finally received the long-awaited command to return. Fuel was running low, and the tension that had fueled the chase was beginning to ebb, replaced by a heavy exhaustion. He turned the jet westward, toward the distant silhouette of the carrier cutting through open water. Below, inside the damaged submarine, the captain stood silently as the last of his crew evacuated. He had gambled against the sky and lost. Yet there was a quiet dignity in survival. The Atlantic had spared them from a grave beneath miles of crushing depth. As he climbed into the rescue craft, he looked once at the horizon where the jet circled high above, a small dark shape against the growing light. Their battle had lasted hours, but it would echo in memory for years. The jet descended carefully toward the carrier deck, landing with a controlled roar of engines and smoking tires. Deck crews rushed forward, guiding the aircraft into position. When the cockpit canopy lifted, cold ocean air flooded inside. The pilot removed his helmet, eyes scanning the vast sea one last time. The Atlantic appeared peaceful now, almost innocent, as if it had never trembled with explosions or swallowed the thunder of war machines. By midday, the damaged submarine was secured for towing, and the rescued crew members were under guard but safe. Diplomats would argue, intelligence agencies would analyze, and headlines might speak of tension across the ocean between the United States and its adversaries. But for the sailors and the pilot, the story was simpler. They had tested one another in a silent duel between sky and sea, and lived. As the carrier steamed onward through open waters, the Atlantic resumed its endless rhythm. Waves erased the scars of conflict, blending them back into blue-gray infinity. Somewhere beneath the surface, Fragments of metal drifted slowly downward, settling into the deep where light could never reach. And high above, contrails faded into empty sky, leaving behind nothing but memory, the reminder that even in the world's widest ocean, no shadow remains hidden forever.